when you're programming in Perl, quite soon you'll encounter some kind of a need for third-party extension. All of these third-party extensions are located on CPAN, and my recommended way of looking at CPAN is via the MetaCPAN or website that you can look at right now. Here you can find a search box, and you can certainly search among the tens of thousands of extensions that Perl has on this website. But it can be overwhelming. You will get a lot of similar modules, and it will be quite difficult to decide which ones to use. So a couple of people got together and created a list of recommended modules to the more central, the most common areas of programming. And this list of modules is linked right from here. It's called Task Kensho. If you click on this link, you will see it's actually itself a distribution on CPAN, which is called Task Kensho. And here you can scroll down and you will see a couple of subjects, and within each subject a number of recommended modules. So it's in alphabetic order, so it starts with the asynchronous programming, and it has 2 recommended modules here. Then the command line interfaces, command line tools. For example, AppAck, which is like a grep-like tool, but which in a clever way can search for only files that are text files, only files which are for a certain programming language, and so on. Then there are this area is about configuration. So you can see here too, there are, for example, 2 modules that allow you to do configuration in various ways. And then there are maybe 100 different other configuration modules with specific features. Some of them might be better for you actually, but it's usually recommended to get started with one of these recommended solutions, and then if they fit, that's fine. If they don't, then you at least have a starting point where to search from. For database development, there are a couple of recommended modules. So just to give you a background, the DBD SQLite is the database driver for the lightweight SQLite database. You won't use it directly. Instead of that, you're going to use, if you need to use the SQLite, you'll use the DPI, which is the database independent interface, which in turn will use by itself the DBD SQLite module to connect to the database. Now this is the vanilla interaction. You just send in SQL queries, but sometimes you would prefer to write ORM, so you want to need an object relational model, and the recommended one is the DBX class module that is listed here. And then there are 2 other modules which are, let's say, helper modules for the DBX class or for your interaction with the databases. So these are not necessarily replacements of each other, but more like extensions or helpers to each other. Then there are the date modules. Here we have a couple of ones again: the datetiny, datetime tiny. So datetime is the robust, every date issue can be solved library, but that is heavy, obviously, because it does a lot of things. So there are cases when you prefer to save memory and have it faster, even though you might not get all the features that datetime provides. And then you'll probably use either the datetime tiny or the datetiny modules, or there are even the time tiny. You'll have to still have to make a decision, but instead of looking at 100 different modules about date and time, you can look at these, I don't know, 5, I think. Email, here you have, on one hand, there is the email valid that will be able to validate an email address that you got if you are doing a registration form. On the other hand, there are a couple of modules to create email and send them out with attachment and with embedded HTML and whatever you want. Excel CSV. The 2 modules here allow you to read and write Excel files even if you're running on a Linux machine or a Unix machine, and this module, the text CSV access, allows you to read and write CSV files, plain old CSV files. Exceptions, Perl has the built-in exception handling, but there are a couple of ways to do it better, and then there are these 2 modules, try tiny and try catch, that will provide you with such interface on one hand. On the other hand, AutoDie will turn the regular error messages of Perl into exceptions automatically without you writing extra code. So it will eliminate the or die part in many of your functions. Then there is the logging part where so you can add logging messages to your application. So people who see your application running can also follow what's going on in its log. It can be very helpful to follow what's going on in an application, especially when it's misbehaving. Module development is when you start writing more bigger applications. It's usually useful. And then when you want to package modules in the CPAN way, even if you're not planning to upload to CPAN. There are a couple of modules here, for example, Perl Critic and Perl Tidy, that are useful also for simple scripts, because Perl Critic would give you a static analysis and point out various places where you're not writing code according to best practices. And Perl Tidy would be able just to clean up your code and make the layout nicer according to a default configuration, but you can also configure it yourself. The OOP, the object-oriented programming, so Perl has a very simple object-oriented way built in the language, and on top of it there are a couple of libraries that provide you much nicer way to write object-oriented code, and the biggest, the more advanced one of these is called Moose, and Task Moose is actually another module with a lot of modules listed inside, that provides Moose and various parts or extensions of Moose. And then there are a couple of other things, scalability for here, for example, drivers for Redis, and testing obviously a very important area. So there are a couple of modules that help you write tests. As you can see, this list is quite long, and there are really effectively hundreds of modules for helping you to write tests in a more clever way with less code. So basically that's I think the web crawling. Okay, that's another area. So when you, instead of writing web applications, you want to write a crawler to access websites, here are a couple of ways to do that. And then web development, there are a couple of frameworks, Dancer and Modulicious, which are the more lightweight modern web frameworks, and Catalyst, which is let's say the more heavyweight, the MVC web application framework. The other two are more route-based versions, and Plaque, which actually is below each of these frameworks that allow you to write low-level code. And then XML processing is another field. And then we ended this list. Basically, the point is that instead of searching the whole CPAN, now you have a reduced list of recommended modules, and you can search or pick between them which one might fit your situation and your requirements.